to be part of that sort of prequel idea of Alien, and to play Peter Weyland, the man whose mission this was essentially, was quite extraordinary. What was funny about that, of course, because I said, the reason they cast me is one of the reasons is because they wanted to see Peter Weyland young as well, and in the end they decided to scrap the idea. And you see Fassbender have a conversation with a pair of VR goggles on, and you don't even see me. And I was like, you could have just cast an old guy instead of having 5 hours of makeup on. Really. But still happy to be part of the process.
It is no coincidence that fate brought us together on the eve of my mother's death. I'm good at reading the signs.
Sir, I do not know what the commission entails.
We'll talk about the details at home, but you'll be well compensated. And also, you'll be given a place here on the property to live and work. I think that residing here will allow you the time and the space to conceive of it properly. And your family, should they arrive, they're welcome here too. What do you say?
I would like to draw something and present it to you.
You'd like to win the commission. All right, you can do that. It's cold. Let's return inside. Come on.
Welcome to the Actor's Side today. When I say veteran actor, I mean it. If you look at his credits, he has done movie after movie. You never stop working. And your latest is The Brutalist, for which there is much awards talk and high critical praise for your performance in this, as well as the movie itself. This is Guy Pearce. Welcome to the Actor's Side.
Thank you very much. Good to see you again.
I saw The Brutalist in Toronto one morning when it was raining, and I got there, line around the block, and these are all journalists and things, and so I had to go to the back of the line, and they said, you're probably not going to get near this to get into it. And some nice publicist came and saw me and said, do you want to go see it? Well, what do you think I'm standing here for?
Yeah.
And I got in and I saw it, and I could see why there was a line around the block.
It's a stunning film, isn't it?
It's like unlike any movie in this era.
Well, when my agent saw it, he saw an early cut of it some months ago, and he texted me and he said, I feel like I've just watched, Citizen Kane. I feel like I've just seen an Orson Welles movie.
That's a very good comparison because it's got a lot of that feel to it.
It has a very old-fashioned feel to it, in the best possible way, I think. Yeah, it really does kind of just allow you to sort of sink into what the lives of these people are in the way that movies used to do a lot more.
Right, exactly. And your character, which is Harrison Lee Van Buren, all of that, is also a throwback. That you don't see this kind of character, or probably get to play this kind of character much in movies.
No, that's right. I mean, obviously the film is set, we sort of start in about 1947 and go through, I'm not even sure exactly when, obviously it goes through to like 1980 when we see the Biennale. But the bulk of our story is really, for sort of a 10-year period, I guess. And so there's a throwback in that we're looking at a story historically. But yes, there's something about the character that I play that really feels like another era. And that's what was great also about playing him too.
And I think one of the reasons you're getting such ecstatic reviews and things for this character is, he's kind of a monster. He's very complex, but there's so many sides to him you bring out that are unexpected in this kind of character.
Well, thank you. I won't take the credit for it though, because Brady and Mona, who wrote the scripts, Brady Corbet or Corbett, depending on what side of the pond you're on, they've written a really complex and fantastically engaging piece of work where the work that we do as actors, where we look for as many layers as we can, is all there on the page.
Right.
And so in a way, all my work was done for me. You know, I could see the complexities of this man just from reading the script. So it was a beautiful job to take on because that was all there. And when it's there in the script, you know that it's stuff that the director wants, and you know that it's stuff that's going to end up in the film.
Yeah.
We as actors can take a role and go, right, well, I'm going to add this and create that and do that. Well, a lot of that stuff can go because if it's not you know, primarily connected to the plot, a lot of that can sort of seem like fodder that just needs to go. So it really felt like the complexity and the depth of these characters is what this wonderful director was looking for.
You don't always see that in the scripts that you get. You know, sometimes you have to fill it in yourself as an actor.
Yeah, I mean, to a degree, that's right. And I think the more you have to fill it in, the more concerned I am if I'm doing that. Because if I'm making decisions about a character, then I start to not trust those decisions I'm making. I'd rather adhere to what a filmmaker is wanting and get on board his train. That to me is the best. It's the most fun, and I do a better job, and I think you're honouring this wonderful story that someone's created. I think it's the best way to work.
And as a movie that's 3.5 hours plus an intermission, I can't tell you the last time I went to a new movie that actually stopped and had intermission that wasn't slapped in there illegally by a theater manager wanting to sell popcorn.
No, this was, and obviously as we can all imagine, this was something Brady had to fight for. You know, it again adds to the whole sense that this is of another era. And it just slows you down. You know, it slows you down. As we know, through the 80s and 90s, films got faster, cutting got faster, everybody's pace, everything these days is faster, faster, faster. So in a way, there's a wonderful sense of being taken back almost in a meditative way to just going, we're allowed to enjoy something like this. Not unlike, we talked before about Mildred Pearce.
Yes.
Not unlike Todd Haynes' work in Mildred Pearce, which is more akin to the original book of that story, where the pace doesn't have to move rapidly. You can sit with these characters.
Right, and television long form allows you to do that.
Well, it does, but even in that, I still think there's a jittery kind of, you know, it doesn't, when a show gets 7 or 8 hours, it doesn't necessarily fill it out in the best possible way. It just goes, how much can we cram into 7 or 8 hours instead of going, how much can we slow down and actually tell the same simple, lovely story in the most peaceful kind of way. So it's an interesting battle, I think, this energetic battle that goes on.
I should say you won an Emmy for Mildred Pearce.
You should say that, yes. I did win it. It's the only thing I've ever won in my life, I think.
Oh, come on. Well, we'll get on to that, but I mean, congratulations on that, because that was a great performance. And
and again, thank you. But again, I'm really aware, if I'm good in something, I'm really aware of how much that's attributed to the director we had. I look at LA Confidential and I go, I did not create that performance at all. Curtis Hanson completely constructed that performance. Chris Nolan completely constructed that performance.
Memento,
You know, Todd Haynes completely. So I look at that and go, well, I know I can be good if I'm in the hands of someone like that. Because I've been in other things too where I go, well, I sort of did the same thing, but if it's not put together really brilliantly, then I'll just sort of, you know, remain average. And so if you're in the hands of someone amazing, you really feel like you're elevated.
And Mayor of Easttown, I thought, was another example of that too. I watched it weekly on HBO, which is rare now. Everybody binges everything and watches stuff. That I like to see something and then, you know, talk to people about it and then wait for it the next week.
Yeah, well, we're from another era. When we used to have to do that, we had no choice. You know? Well, that's the funny argument when it comes to this film being 3.5 hours long, and people going, people aren't going to sit through 3.5 hours. I'm like, well, people will sit through 7 hours of their favourite TV show.
Right.
Surely they'll sit through 3.5 hours of a great movie. You know?
3.5, and it really is interesting because the first half is one movie. The second half, when you're going to Italy and looking for the marble and everything, and then all kinds of revelations about your character come out, you know, because we've given it time. We've seen him go through rage. We've seen him be charming. We've seen him really
Well, he's sympathetic. I think he can be a sympathetic man.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting about him.
Yeah. You really get the sense, and I got the sense, obviously, in reading it and doing it, that he's a man of taste. You know, he isn't just a sort of a megalomaniac, power-hungry kind of, you know, entrepreneur. Right. He has great taste, and he recognizes that in Adrian's character. And there's something endearing about that. There's something warm and sensitive and kind of appealing about someone who recognizes the beauty of the world. And so that's and we see, you know, as people will see in the first scene that I'm in, I'm exploding.
Yeah, you're just like going off on this poor guy.
Well, that's right. Yeah, and then in the second scene, I'm completely enamored by him. So it also sets up this idea that my character's unpredictable, and we don't kind of know what we're going to get from him. But I certainly think you get the sense that he is even though he's a wealthy man and he wants to own and possess, you know, that we kind of understand why. We get this sense why. But, you know, we learn more about him as the film goes on.
That's for sure. I think power is a good word with him, because I think he's got to have power, but then he's comfortable being a nice guy or a human being.
Yeah, that's right. And I think we make these assumptions that someone who just wants power, that they just steamroller everybody around them. No. When in actual fact, they kind of work with people around them. And, you know, some might say they manipulate the people around them, you know, but there's varying degrees with every individual. So it was a really interesting character to play. I thought the whole thing was interesting, the dynamic between you and Adrian Brody, just an incredible performance here as Laszlo Toth, who's the architect who was in the Holocaust and came from Hungary and from Europe and comes to America for his dreams, and he thinks he's going to land it. And then, of course, that scene you referred to where you go into rage, and then you give him this plum job to build basically a monument to yourself. Well, and it's given to him out of recognition of what he is worth. You know, what he's so you can see why as Laszlo, why he's really taken in this land of opportunity. I'm recognized for my skill, for my abilities, and I've been sort of taken in under the wing of this sort of this wealthy landowner. So it all seems like a wonderful opportunity. Yeah, and it really shows the dynamic between the artist, which is him as an architect, and you as the benefactor who's allowing it and controlling it. But I find it interesting because on many levels, I think Adrian and his sense of character has far more sense of confidence about it than my character does. I might present that I'm the confident, laissez-faire kind of wealthy guy, but I think underneath is a burning kind of anxiety, this protectionist kind of idea which is representative in a way of America. This idea that it's the greatest in the world, but don't take it from me. I know. So there's an anxiety, I think, that exists. I think so, and it's a period piece in many ways, but I think it has such relevance for now, for America right now. Yeah. I can't think of another film I've seen this year that has as much relevance. Yes, on so many levels. On so many different levels. Yeah, and day by day we're finding more. That's right. Yes, as new people are admitted into the administration. Oh my God, yeah. But that's another movie. That's another movie. Exactly. But we talked about awards. You said, well, this is the first award I won for Mildred Pearce things. There's so much. Not the first, the only. The only. Well, there's so much Oscar buzz right now about both you and Adrian in this picture, Felicity too. I went back and looked, and I was astounded to see you have never had an Oscar nomination, Guy Pearce. How did this happen? Look, I don't question it at all. I just kind of go, all I want to do is do good work and try and get better and better each time. Yeah. I wouldn't profess to even understand how the voting and awards and all that stuff works. Right. I don't certainly feel like I've been snubbed or, I never feel anything like that. I feel really grateful and have gratitude for the jobs that I've gotten to do. Yeah. And if I do a good job in something, I just feel relieved that I've done a good job. And if people say to me, "Oh, wow, I loved that film and loved what you did," that's all I need. That's it? Do you know? Yeah. That's the award. Look, I mean, when I won that Emmy, that was quite an amazing experience on all sorts of levels, and I can understand. But it's a little bit like fame generally anyway. You're trying to deal with what that even means, and one part of you is going, this is great, this is incredible, but really it's all meaningless and it's empty. So what do I do with that? So trying to stay level-headed about it, I think, is important. And, not winning them is actually a whole lot easier than winning them, So not even being in the race for it. So people talk about this at the moment. I go, how do you feel? I'm like, oh, it actually makes me anxious, the thought of it, to be honest. I'm glad I've done a good job. I'm really relieved about that. That feels great. And again, I'm aware that all of us in this film probably look as good as we do. I mean, Felicity's fantastic and Adrian, everyone's really good. But Brady just takes us all to another level, because of how he wrote these characters. So it's all attributed to him, I think.
It's amazing. Well, when I have your Wikipedia here, so when I read some of these movies that you've done, that's why I'm astounded that you haven't been nominated before, because I could give you several here that you should have been. But let's talk about some of these titles you've done. Okay. You mentioned L.A. Confidential with the late, great Curtis Hanson, and you starred opposite Russell Crowe. That was the big breakthrough internationally, I guess.
Well, and it was my first American film. So this was my sort of landing in LA and getting to work on a movie that was that movie, So really it was such a big step up from what I'd done before. I mean, obviously Priscilla had great sort of reaction and great response, and a great reaction and response culturally too, and just time-wise.
The Adventures of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
That's
which
right.
you played a drag queen.
I played a drag queen, which was the funniest thing. Was that people kept saying to Curtis Hanson, so you cast him from Priscilla? And Curtis was like, no, I don't even want to look at Priscilla. I don't know anything about it. I don't want to have anything to, so it was really the two sort of opposing worlds, which was pretty funny. But to get to work in LA Confidential was a spectacular experience. I mean, really, and I've said this before, but it was for me it was like going to film school, learning about film acting. Because of Curtis and Russell.
Curtis was a true. I knew Curtis. He was a true cinephile, if ever there was one among directors.
Such a mentor for me on many levels. As a film director, as almost a father figure. So I was deeply saddened when he passed away. I remained very close with him and learned a lot from him. So that film is just a representation of that relationship that I had with him.
So good. Memento, breakthrough for Christopher Nolan. He was nominated for that for writing, but that was an amazing movie too.
Well, again, it really was, and I'm just like another lucky opportunity going, how did I land in this? I remember reading the script and watching his first film Following, and getting really anxious that I was like, I have to do this movie. I have to let him know because this is so fantastic. Other people are going to want to do this. I'm going to lose this job in a second. So I called him up and I said, look, I'm really embarrassed to do this, but I hear that, this works well in this town. Just letting you know that I'm really enthusiastic and I'd really love to do this movie, if that means anything. Sorry, don't mean to be pushy, but Val Kilmer slept on Oliver Stone's porch to prove that he was the guy. So I'll come and do that if need be. Because no, please, I hear you. Thank you very much. Good to know. So
he's reserved.
He's reserved and he's English. So but I thought I can't. If that means anything, to let someone know. When people, directors say, I knew he was the right guy. He told me how keen he was. I'm like, shouldn't it be if you're the best actor for it, not because of how keen you are? So anyway, I got the job. It worked.
Very good. I talked to Kiefer Sutherland not long ago, and he told me, I just saw a story in the trades that he was doing a new movie, Juror Number 2, and I just wrote him this letter and saying, I'll play anything, and he sent him a letter, and Clint called him up and created a role for him.
Right. So it can work, yeah.
It can work.
Well, it's the squeaky wheel, isn't it?
It's amazing. Factory Girl, you played Andy Warhol.
Yeah.
I remember
what an experience that was. It was really interesting because, we'd gone to New York to rehearse and prepare. We were going to shoot the film in New Orleans because the funding was out of Louisiana, and Katrina hit right at that point. So they went, obviously, everyone hold their horses, just stay here, we'll work out what we're going to do. And so I stayed at the Chelsea Hotel for about, 2 months or something like that. But in that time, while they moved the film to Shreveport, and in that time got to meet all these people that were in Warhol World.
Oh, wow.
From Bridget Berlin to Jared Malenga to, all these different, Stuart Pivar, who was Andy's best friend. So all these incredible people. So I was so immersed in that world by the time we actually started to shoot. I remember Jude Law turned up at one point, early on, and he was like, and I said, I'm still sort of getting this, like, I think you're there, buddy. I think you've got it covered.
Don't go any further.
That's right. Roll camera,
I love it. The Hurt Locker, Best Picture winner.
Well,
Catherine Bigelow, the very first woman ever to win an Oscar for directing.
Incredible experience, and a really brief experience for me. It was funny because people would say to me, congratulations on The Hurt Locker. And I think, The Hurt Locker. That's right. That was the one where I was in Jordan for about 3 days, I think. I mean, I knew which one it was, but I didn't feel as connected to the film purely because of my short shooting experience on it, And I remember Chris, my agent, saying, at the Oscars, if the film wins, you go up there as well.
That's right.
And I went, really? Should I? I mean, I die in like the first 2 seconds of the movie. So, But still, it won the film. It won the Oscar, and then King's Speech won the best film the year after.
The next year, you were in the 2 Best Picture winners in a row, which is a rare feat in and of itself. Were you at the Oscars for both of those?
Yes, I was.
Did you go up on stage for both of those?
I think I did. I can't remember now, to be honest. I think I did, yeah.
That's a more recent thing where everybody gets out of the audience that has anything to do with the movie.
I mean, and I feel a bit embarrassed doing that, to be honest, Sorry, hi. Yeah.
Oh, I think it's a good thing. Now, you've worked with the great Ridley Scott. He's got Gladiator 2 now, but you did Prometheus and Alien Covenant, which was really number 2 and 3 of his so-called Alien trilogy.
Yeah, a really incredible experience to work with Ridley, and also to be part of that sort of prequel idea of Alien, and to play Peter Weyland, the man whose mission this was essentially was quite extraordinary. What was funny about that, of course, because I said, the reason they cast me is one of the reasons is because they wanted to see Peter Weyland young as well.
Right.
Because while I'm cryogenically frozen as this old man, there was going to be a scene where Michael Fassbender would come and visit me in my cryogenically frozen fantasy world, which was going to be on a super yacht with all these lovely young ladies, and we were going to have a conversation, and so we filmed all the old stuff, and then meanwhile Ridley was trying to find a boat that he liked. Couldn't find one, and in the end they decided to scrap the idea, and you see Fassbender have a conversation with a pair of VR goggles on, and you don't even see me, and it's like, you could have just cast an old guy instead of having 5 hours of makeup on the whole time. Really? But still happy to be part of the process.
Oh yeah. And those were amazing too. Mary Queen of Scots, you played William Cecil.
That was
a great cast in that.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and to get to work with Margot, who's a delightful girl and a fellow Aussie, was
and
lovely.
You started in a soap in Australia, The Neighbours, and so did she.
Yeah, pretty much everyone did. Everyone who's come out of Australia has either worked in Neighbours or Home and Away. Yeah. So they're the two sort of Victoria and New South Wales soaps. I mean, there are other shows as well and other ways through, but pretty much every actor you see coming out of Australia will have at some point been on one or two of those shows. Wow. So, but she was there obviously a lot later than me. But it was lovely to work with her, and also to share the screen again with Saoirse Ronan, who I'd worked with in 2006 on Death Defying Acts. Yes. When she was 12.
Houdini.
Yeah, that's right.
You play a lot of fascinating real people.
Well, what was interesting doing Houdini was I'd done, I can't remember the order now, but I'd done a bit of Houdini and then a bit of Factory Girl and then had to go back. No, that's right, I'd done Factory Girl and then I'd done Death Defying Acts. And then a year later, because Harvey had put some more money and wanted to rekindle the movie and shoot some extra stuff, I had to go back and be Andy again. But meanwhile, I'd put on about 10 kilos of muscle, so we had to make sure we couldn't see that. So there was a little bit of trickery going on there.
Yeah, Harvey Weinstein you were referring to, and that was interesting. I went to a lunch for Factory Girl here in one award season, and they were literally handing out the DVDs like it was, an hors d'oeuvre.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll never forget that.
And another director I've worked with who's passed away as well, so George Hickenlooper, the director of that.
Yes.
So I'm clearly a bad omen.
George Hickenlooper is a very nice guy. You played Ebenezer Scrooge. We're in the Christmas season now. That probably turns up every Christmas, I would imagine.
There's a few versions of A Christmas Carol, obviously, that have been done over the years, but it was nice to delve into that world and to work with the incredible Nick Murphy directing.
Yeah.
So so that was glorious. And then I worked with Nick Murphy again in another miniseries called A Spy Among Friends with Damian Lewis, about a couple of the sort of famous Cambridge spies.
Yeah.
So Nick Murphy is a favourite of mine as a director.
It's amazing. And I didn't even mention King's
Speech.
Yeah, that won the Oscar too, and you played another real person.
Yeah, there was a few. I know, that's right.
Is there a big difference in playing somebody that lived as an actor in preparing? Or
well, there's no difference. I don't think there's a difference really in then what it is that you do, but there is a difference in the lead up, because obviously you play someone like Warhol or Houdini, particularly Warhol, because there's so much footage and so much audio and so much stuff you can watch and just immerse yourself in, much less with, King Edward and even less with Houdini. I mean, there's photos and all sorts of stuff of Houdini as well, but a lot less than Warhol. Yeah. So it's great to delve into real footage. It's just fascinating.
Yeah.
Think, wow, I'm playing this guy. So you're just trying to take whatever you actually can from them. Yeah.
It's so cool. Okay, so you have so many movies that you shoot for 2024 here. I mean, there's like 4 or 5 movies. You work all the time, in other words.
Well, I try not to. I've got a son now, so I'm actually trying to work less so that I can spend time with him and he doesn't forget who I am.
Well, you're in Inside, you're in Sunrise, you're in The Shrouds, which I saw in one of the film festivals.
That's right. Well, Shrouds was at Cannes.
David
right.
Cronenberg.
Yeah. I mean,
he's the best.
Thrill. Yeah, a real thrill to work with him, and I've been a fan ever since Scanners, back in the 80s, and he's a really fantastically lovely guy. So we got to talk about kidney stones and scanners and all sorts of crazy things. So he was a delight, and to work with Vincent Cassel as well, of course.
It's so interesting to me. You just love this business, I can tell, because you would not be able to do this level of work. I mean, and that was just the movies. This is all the television and everything else, and theater that you did early on.
Yeah, I haven't done theater for quite some years.
In the beginning.
Well, that's right, and I'm always sort of hankering a little bit to get back on the stage. Obviously, having a child now, as I say, sort of makes a difference, and I'm living in the Netherlands, and so I can't be away from him for too long.
Right.
And lots of these jobs I do these days, I suppose, are generally little short stints. I'm in the middle of a film right now.
Oh, you are?
So I'm doing a film right now.
Right here?
Right here, right now, yeah. Yeah, if you don't mind.
Wow.
No, so I'll go back to London on Monday and do my last 2 days on a film called Woman in Cabin 10 with Keira Knightley.
It's got it right here, The Woman in Cabin 10, filming. Yes,
filming.
That's what it says.
That's right, yeah. So they're in studio in London going, you are coming back from LA. We are going to get you back. So I'll go back, we filmed a month down in the south coast of England, and we've just done a couple of weeks up in Scotland, and now they're in the studio, and I'll go back and, as I say, finish.
And how's Keira to work with?
She's delightful. Yeah,
She's so good.
yeah. And Hannah Waddingham and Daniel Ings, and all these great actors.
Wow.
That I'm loving up over there.
Oh God! Well, there's so much to look forward to, and I really could go on all day talking.
But Inside, I have to say, Inside is really great. I work with Cosmo Jarvis, who's a fascinating, beautiful, really powerful actor. So, meeting him and working with him kind of reminded me of when I met and worked with Tom Hardy. They both have this Brando-like quality about them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
They're very masculine, but incredibly sensitive, beautiful, but dangerous kind of guys in their energy and their presence. Yeah. So really wonderful working with them.
It's a prison drama, right?
It's a prison drama, and it's beautifully emotional and really, sticks a knife in your heart.
Wow. Yeah. It's so exciting,
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to do that you haven't had the chance as an actor?
No, not really. I'm really happy to sort of wait and see what the universe brings, and because that element of surprise is part of the leap for me. It's part of the motivation and the kind of the inspiration. Finding something like reading a good book and going, oh, wow, and then that feeling, like when I was a kid and I'd read a play and really want to do it and play that character. So I don't sort of fantasize about characters that I really want to do. I mean, sure, there's great directors out there that I'd love to work with and great actors I'd love to work with, but if it happens, it happens,
I just thought of something you might be able to go on stage with. I heard they're doing a stage production of Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Well,
they did one, but
they've been doing it for a while, actually, in the UK.
You could just do a new revival of
I
that.
could. I don't know that I'd want to step back into those step back in those heels.
Okay, I'm trying to get you back on stage.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Guy. You're
No
great.
worries.
And The Brutalist is it's a must-see, believe it. And just sit there and just let it float right over you. It's an amazing movie.
Yeah.
And best of luck with it. Thanks for joining us on The Actor's Side.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.